Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Carolyn Shadrach, author of the Client Attraction Code. Carolyn, welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here and be with your listeners.
Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I think that one of the things that I would say is to get really clear about the purpose of your book. What I mean is the purpose for you for writing the book. I think that, for me, when I wrote my book, it was really something that I had been kind of pottering on to help my clients in terms of being able to get them the transformation that they wanted. And so with the book, it was a similar in terms of the purpose of the book. It's to get to a wider audience about how they could get the same transformation that my clients were getting. And because I was clear on that purpose, I was able to kind of structure it in a way where I could really get my readers from where they were in terms of the struggle that they were living through, and to see the opportunity of how they can get to a different place.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, I think that today, especially with Amazon and KDP, in terms of self-publishing, it's never been easier. I think one of the most difficult things really is how to stand out from the crowd, because there are so many people that are kind of publishing books now. How can you really make it something that is valuable to the readers that you want to reach? And I think that one of the things that you can do is, again, to really get clear on who it is that you want to serve with your book. And specifically, when I think about a book, I'm talking about this would be like a non-fiction book, because most of the people that I work with are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They're entrepreneurs, they're coaches, they're consultants, and so they have a message that they know can help people. And so really the book is a vehicle so that they can get that message out. And so I think when you can get really clear about who those people are, what the things are that they're struggling with, then you can become much more effective in terms of being able to get your book published, because that it's not just about you, it's about the clients.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest tools as well, is having that book, because you treat it like a product launch. It's an extension of yourself, your personal brand, your business brand, and having the opportunity to share that story. And you bring up a great point too. I mean, it has to be a story. It has to be something that people can relate to. Personally, I'm a huge believer in story branding, where you're not pitching anything, but you're talking about your experience, and your experience is what's going to connect with the reader. And then you get the opportunity to get them on the potential strategy session or to connect with them. And then that way they potentially become a client, but they have to be able to connect with you first, because that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. That's completely correct. I think that story is like a huge piece in terms of being able to kind of connect with people and really make it relevant for them. And I think that, like when you think about it, if you're as a teacher, if you're, as a thought leader, when you try to teach, you're just teaching facts and numbers, like it goes in one ear and out the next. But when you can connect it with a story and let people come to their own conclusions, it's much more powerful in the way that it connects with them and resonates with them. And it's something that they can really remember. And, when those things come up in their life, they remember the story and they remember you. And that's how you can really create a deeper connection.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because I do actually help my clients kind of bring their books to life and get themselves published. And so one of the things that I put together a couple, I want to say it's about 6 months ago, is actually a 9-step checklist of how to easily monetize your book, and so that you can get your book launched, but in a way that will have the readers see you as a solution to their problem. And so One of the things that I'm just looking at, I actually have the PDF right in front of me right now. One of the things that I think is essential is first of all to think of your book as a business card. I think that when I start working with clients, when they first come to me, they kind of thinking that, okay, I'm going to get all the monetization of my book, and even the impact of my book from selling the book itself. And actually, what I do with them is kind of change that mindset around, and so that they can see that the book is almost like a business card. It's like an introduction that you can use to put yourself in front of your ideal clients. And so that when you think about it that way, it's a completely different perspective. And one of the strategies that we use with our clients is actually to give their book away for free. And I don't mean that you can give your book away for free to influencers. I actually mean to give your book away for free for the ideal clients that you want to attract. Because that way, and we do something what we call the free plus shipping funnel. And so what happens is that, it kind of gets rid of the tire kickers, because if you have to pay for the shipping, even if the shipping is just $7, that means that the people are kind of interested in whatever topic it is that you're actually talking about in your book. And then within the funnel itself, you can then kind of you can negate your cost, because you might have upsells or cross sells. And again, this is all about how you can get people from A to B faster and easier. So the cross sells, the upsells that you might have, of how can you implement the things that you talk about in your book in a faster way, an easier way. And so you give them the option to do that too. And what we found is that is a really great strategy in terms of being able to monetize your book.
Yeah, well, especially with the free plus shipment funnel, I mean, it can be very effective because one, you've already got your information in there. I'm assuming you're referring to ClickFunnels, correct, with this funnel?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
so you have that. They've already got the credit card information in. So they've made the purchase. They're having the free book. They're paying for shipping, and then boom, they get an offer. Whether that's for a course, a program, some different offer where it might be $29, even $39. They might purchase that. No, by the way, here's another offer for $200 or $300, where you're basically working them up the ascension model.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's right. And that's one of the things that I think is important before you even start your book, is to think about what is the end goal where you want to take your clients. And so you can build that, that value ladder, the ascension model of what is the next step that they can take, which is going to get them to the place where they want to go, where the transformation that they want to achieve. And how can you actually help them to get there? And so, yeah, you can absolutely do that within the funnel. And then, you always want to have like a follow-up funnel with like an email campaign, so that, again, for those people who aren't ready to take action, that, maybe it's going to be like 2 months down the line, maybe 2 years even perhaps down the line, but you're still being on top of mind with those people, and they still remember you as a person that has the solution to their problems.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about those types of funnels. I mean, they can be effective, but I've seen a couple of different ways with that. I've seen people that will ship the book. Now, I did want to ask you, how are you guys actually doing the shipping? Is through drop shipping? What is your method when people do opt in for the book? How are they going to receive it? How are they going to be able to receive that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And there's a couple of different methods. Like with some of the clients that we have, they do, as you said, you drop shipping, and there's several different companies that can work with you on that, in terms of how you want to kind of stockpile the books, because you can do this without having to have like hundreds and hundreds of books on standby, and that's the beauty of it. On the other hand, the other end of the spectrum, we also have clients who have a digital book that they deliver. And again, they just ask for, like, if people can help them with the handling of the book. Now, they're not shipping anything, right? But they're still asking to kind of help with the costs involved. And so again, just by having someone actually input their information so they do become a purchaser, as opposed to just a viewer, it kind of changes the relationships. And I think that's what the important thing is in terms of how these kind of funnels works. And as you say, it works with ClickFunnels. Kartra is another one where it works. Again, it has the same kind of system and setup. I think actually Frank Kern, who actually has worked with Kartra in terms of putting together their done for you funnels that they have, he actually uses the same method in terms of the books that he has. And I think originally he was doing it with the dropshipping method. So there was a physical book that he would send out to people. And now he's actually kind of gone to more the digital side. So it's like a digital copy of the book that people get sent.
Well, it's funny you mention that. That was actually going to be my next question to you, because that's the trend I'm seeing as well, is that people are utilizing more for the digital version. You're charging a few dollars less. I think a lot of times it's $3 or $4. Go, hey, you can get my book here. It's a free digital copy. You'll get it instantly. And then either the upsells to a strategy session or to a different product. And I know Frankie does a lot of that type of marketing.
Mm.
But that's one of the trends that I've noticed is it tends to be more digital based now versus getting the traditional free book and have it in their hands.
Yeah, exactly. It's true, and I think that people are kind of so used to that it does work. I mean, personally, me personally, I actually like to get a book in my hand. I like the smell of a book, what I mean? And to feel it kind of flicking through the pages. So it's really kind of like a personal preference. It works either way. But one of the other things that we also do when we work with clients and kind of getting their books out is actually within the book itself, whether it's digital or physical book that you actually ship, we actually help them to within the content of the book is to seed towards the programs and that transformation that they want people to achieve, and not just soft seeding, actually putting somewhere in the book, like in the beginning, in the middle of the book, inviting people to take it from the book to a different place. And so that might be an invite to like a membership site where you can get some free resources, or an invite to a series of videos where you can get information and tips about how you can implement things within the book. So again, it's kind of taking your customer from one channel, which is your book, to a different channel. And so now they're seeing a different way that you can help them. And again, giving them resources where they can get to implement the things that you've been talking about faster and easier. And that's been very effective. In fact, actually, I just had a client just recently who came to me she actually found my book on Amazon. And so there was no free flash shipping. She found the book on Amazon, but because of the way the book was actually structured, she made her way over to my website, watched the video over there, and then she entered my funnel, scheduled an appointment to talk with me, and signed up as a 6K client after one conversation and I think an email. So so it's very powerful because you can, within the book, the way you structure the book, the way that you can use the structure of the book to overcome objections and things which might hold people back from working with you. You can overcome all of these things before people even kind of get to talk to you. And so the client that actually signed up with me through the book, she's an amazing client. She actually tells me my stories that I've been telling in the book. I'm like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things is that you have to realize is the main thing is, yes, you can make some decent money on the front end with royalties, but you make the life-changing money on the back end. And the main thing with that is just having a crystal clear offer, whether that's giving them a strategy session, giving them a checklist, giving them a product, giving something that you can get their email address and build that relationship. So that way, if they're not necessarily ready for a strategy session, then at minimum, they're going to be ready to be on your list. You can kind of warm up and build that relationship, because that's the right way to do it, because that's really where you're going to make the life-changing money, is turning these readers into clients.
Exactly. And I think actually there was a study done, I think, who was it? It was Josh Turner that talked about this. There was a study done, and I can't remember who the study was by, but it showed that, at any one time, only 7% of the people are actually ready to make a purchase with you when you're as an advertiser. The vast majority are not ready, but they'll be ready eventually. And if you actually just keep the conversation going, I think, how many weeks was it? I think if you keep the conversation going past, I think it was 9 touches or something like that, you are almost like 90% more likely to kind of land the client, mainly because all the other people have dropped out. Some people might have like a 3-day campaign like a free email message campaign, or they might have like a 30-day sequence, but hardly anyone's doing it like at 90 days or a year or even 2 years, and just keeping that conversation going and giving people relevant content, because they've come in for something very specific, and you can continue to help them and continue to have that conversation and build that relationship.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Yeah, so my favorite book that actually I came across this last year, which is kind of surprising because um, the things that he talks about are very similar to things that I talk about, and that's Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Yes.
Um, I love that book.
Hmm.
I love what I really enjoyed was about the way that he talked about the fact that as a business owner, an entrepreneur, I think a lot of people know that stories are very powerful. And when people come to me, they're always like they get very anxious, like, well, what story should I tell? You know, and what Donald Miller talks about is that your story or the story that you tell is not about you. Like you're not the hero of the story. Your client is the hero of the story. And when you come from that kind of mindset, it really shifts the way that you approach everything within your business. That, when you come from a customer centric viewpoint as opposed to you being the person that everyone needs to see, it's a very different, you approach everything differently. And so when you think about the stories, as we talked about before, right, this, you can code the stories and tell the stories in a way so that they can resonate with your customers. And when you think about the things that they're going through, you can find those stories that really illustrate whatever it is they're struggling with. But then you can show how you were able to overcome it. And actually, even with stories, it doesn't have to be your story, right? You can also have, there are other people's stories that you can use that, again, will just illustrate how the potential, the opportunity that other people, your prospects may not see. And that's what I really love. But, that's just one of the points. But I think he has I really love the way that Donald Miller had kind of structured the book in terms of, he has those 7 steps that he goes through and takes people through so that they can get really clear on their messaging. I think that's one of the things that people struggle with. And I think actually all of us have that. Even I have a coach that I work with, even though I work with a coach to help me on the things that I help people to work on, because it's always hard to see your own stuff. You know what I mean? And I think, when you can find the words that resonates with your clients because you're actually using their language, it all becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, that was actually my favorite book I read last year, and just the clarity and messaging just makes all the difference.
Absolutely, it really does. I think that Russell Brunson, I think in his book, he talks about this in .com Secrets, like you with your messaging, like we start to use fancy words or we use acronyms or lingo that we have within the industry, and all of that stuff just like if you have a prospect, they may be struggling with something, but they're just not using the same language that you use, right? And when you use acronyms, when you use industry lingos that they don't understand, and then they switch off. You know what I mean? And so Russell Brunson talks about how you have to use the language of, I think it's like a 3rd grader, right? And keep things very simple. When he has something complicated, he says he uses words like, it's kind of like this, X, right? It's kind of like this. So he makes it very kind of simple for people to understand. And that's really the way that you can start to have a message that resonates with people and that they can hear.
Absolutely. And for our final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
This was actually a hard one, actually. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. So what came to mind for me was actually Seth Godin's book, All Marketers Tell Lies, crossed out stories. So all marketers tell stories. And, that kind of ties into everything that we talked about in terms of the power of using story within your marketing. And I love the title of the book, and the whole book just speaks to that whole message that we've been talking about today.
Yeah, I agree completely with you. Well, Carolyn, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Well, actually, look, I'd like to offer your viewers a chance to get hold of my book, and they can actually go to the title of the book, which is theclientattractioncode.com, and they'll be able to get a free copy of my book. And this goes in. It goes in obviously more deeply into some of the things that we talked about, and also your listeners be able to kind of see that funnel in action and see what it's like.
Carolyn, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's been great to be here.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.